Listening to the 9 to 5 Faith podcast.
All right, everyone. I am here with my friend Felicity, and I cannot wait for you to hear all the genius she is ready to share with everyone. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's Ash Wednesday and
Yes.
pouring rain in Chicago, and it's cold. So
Yes.
besides that, things have been fantastic, Paige. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You too. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do, what your day looks like, all that stuff, how you spend your time?
Good. So I am a writer, author, speaker, mentor, mom, wife, stepmom, animal lover, cook, chef, maid, and I own a brand called She Is You, which is a brand for midlife women who are looking to reinvent and rediscover who they are. So that's a little bit about who I am. And through all of that, we keep juggling it, girlfriend. That's it.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend and she's like, we don't find balance. We find harmony. There's no such thing as balance. We can only figure out how the chaos works together.
100%. There is no such thing as balance. No. Go with the flow.
Yoga be damned. So can you tell me a little bit about kind of your faith journey and kind of what that has looked like over the past few years?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I was born and raised Catholic. And I think you probably hear that a lot. Like, I was born and raised Catholic. We Catholics are either all in on it, or we were born and raised and we don't practice. And so that was the longest part of me. I was born and raised and didn't practice. But it wasn't until God put me on this journey. He was like, I'm really going to make things hard for you. Because yes, and he put me on a really, really hard journey, really, really hard, painfully, emotionally. And then the light bulb finally went on and I'm like, okay, so I get it. And that's over the past, I would say, oh God, 7 or 8 years, I've been growing my faith, my relationship with God. It's beautiful. You know, it's been painful. It's been, screaming why, people can read about that in my upcoming book and how hard my life has been. I feel like Job, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
If you're familiar. Okay. So people who are familiar with, like, that's like how my journey has been. Like, why me? What? And then the light bulb comes on. And then I'm like, okay, so now I understand. But he's like, I'm going to make it a little more tougher for you. And so that's a forgiveness component for my personal story. But that's it. I do go to church to get the Eucharist, but I mostly practice just a little bit of here, a little bit of there. I haven't found a place to call home, brick and mortar, because God's home. This is our temple, you know. Yeah, but the brick and mortar I haven't found yet.
Yeah. And where did your company kind of find its way in that journey? And is there like a melding of the two between your faith and kind of what you do on your day-to-day?
Yes. So I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, violence, just childhood. Whole life has been really bad. So when I left my ex-husband years ago, I made a promise to God that I was going to build a community for women that they could turn to for support and guidance on their own transformational journey. Because I didn't have that. I really think women need a community that accepts, diversity and all that. So that's where the community component came into. And then how I can service God through that, because that's what my next promise with him is we're speaking God language in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been more or less that, I don't want to say woo or woke language, but it's been, for whatever reason, our culture has made it very uncomfortable for us Christians to be able to speak loudly that I believe in God.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We are being punished for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do universe source, blah, blah, blah. And so my social media manager, she's a Christian gal. And I'm like, let's just start doing it. It's God. It's God. And that's my way of, I'm like, I'll push it. And that's what you're doing as well too. And I think that's what we have to keep doing because it's God.
Yeah, man, that's so true. And I think too, like that when we speak about our experiences, it's received differently by people who are non-believers than like standing on the street corner with a picket sign, right? Like, because we're speaking from our experience, and like if anyone listening is in sales and marketing, we always know like the heart sells, right? Like your service and product might solve a problem, but why they chose to go with you is because of your story and your heart and your conviction. And I think that can be like really easily applied to like how people view Christians in the workplace.
Yeah. I agree.
And so what kind of is a day in the life of Felicity look like in terms of your work, but also like how you incorporate God into your work, but also like into your household and your family and your practice and all of that?
Yeah. So we are a blended family, and I have a 15-year-old son that is on his own discovery of God. It's killing me because as a mom, we just want to say, I'm going to be true. This is 100% mom language right here. When you have a child that is going to fight and resist God, and you can see the struggle he's going through, you just want to save your child and just say, just open up the book, say a prayer, right? And he's like, resist. And so I've had to surrender that. And I'm like, you're on your own journey, buddy. So what I do in my home is I pump Christian. We have a whole house radio. So we have, which by the way, I love like Carrie Job and Brandon Lake. I'll pump it through the whole house. I'm like, because my husband he doesn't practice anything. He grew up Lutheran, he doesn't. And so I'm like surrounded by a bunch of heathens. And I'm like, so we're gonna pump it through and they don't mind it.
Yeah.
So it's on a continuous loop, which, hey, I don't mind it, but I get up an hour early every morning and I pop on my AirPods and I turn on Spotify. I'll turn on the Halo app. I'll do that. I'll turn on Spotify. There's a couple prayer people that I like on Spotify. I'll do that. And then the Halo app. And then I do my own personal prayer. So I get up early in the morning. And I think when we can start our day with that and ask God to grace us with his excellence, shape me the way I'm supposed to be through his vision, for me, I've noticed a difference, a huge difference. Instead of getting up and scrolling through emails.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. One thing that actually you said Ash Wednesday. It is Ash Wednesday, and it is the beginning of Lent. And one thing that my husband and I try to do the same thing for Lent, the same kind of sacrifice or the same fast for Lent, just so it's like a little bit easier that like I'm not eating chocolate cake while he gave up sugar, like because that would just be mean. But what we're doing is no technology in the bedroom. So no phones, no TV, like I even like my Apple Watch, like nothing. no laptops, no iPads, nothing.
Mm.
Not only I just wrote a blog about it, but like not only does it like help your marriage, but it also helps your sleep, and it will hopefully help your spiritual life to like kind of compartmentalize that one piece.
I think so. I think so. And you might be on to 40 days of sex. Like,
Yeah.
you might be changing the midlife woman's,
There you
like,
go. Well, there's actually, so my background's actually in psychology. I have my master's degree in psychology, and it is very, very true of people who married couples who don't have like TVs or use their devices in the bedroom have better sex lives and better intimacy than those who use their phones and watch TV in the bedroom. So.
I completely agree with you on that. And my husband, that is one of our marriage and family therapy. That is it. He is like, I want her off that phone. That's my way of
Beautiful.
Decompressing. Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, let's go there. In a world that is very connected and very online, how do you find time to not only just like in the morning, but how do you find time throughout your day or throughout your week to kind of unplug and like reset with God and like also your relationships with other people?
So I have my morning routine, and then I repeat that in the evening with God. And then, I've always talked to him
right,
as if he's like around. I'm like, hey dude, like, no, but you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? But I think when it comes to unplugging, I do my best unplugging in water. So I'm a bathtub girl or a hot tub girl, and I have both. So, but there has to be some sort of music, some sort of, I don't want to say other stimulation around, but just where I can just release whatever tension it is. And then for my, the relationships, there's no phones for dinner time. There's no technology for dinner time. It's put your phone away, Sundays, I am doing the Bible in a Year app with, Father Mike through the Hello app. So I take my Sundays, and that's my Sunday morning. I pop my AirPods on and I do that. So
yeah, that's awesome. We are like kindred spirits though, because I love water as well. I like to say like I'm part fish, and I have a big bathtub and to be installed soon a new pool. So I feel you of like, it's just like, it's different. And water people know though, like if you're listening to this and you're like, y'all are weird, you're probably not a water person.
Exactly. You might be a fire element or earth element, because I'm an earth element gal too. I love to hike. I love going through the woods. I like that smell. It's very grounding, but water is so calming and cleansing. And I mean, well, look what, it goes back to that's where they started baptizing people, was in water. So for me, I am a water gal, but you're going to love your pool. Yeah.
I'm excited, but like pools are like extremely expensive. That's something they didn't warn me about as a kid. And all my neighbors, they all have pools and we don't, because also like we don't sit on like 200 grand in our bank account, because that's how much pools cost out here if you want like a semi decent one. I was like, you know what? I can wait to save up. If any of my neighbors need house sitting, I will gladly house sit if I can use their pool.
So I have a scary pool story for you.
Oh my gosh, let's hear it.
And this is so we are in Chicago, and we're on an acre. So we built this big, beautiful pool, and we're surrounded by all evergreens, and we don't look at a neighbor. And so we keep our pool open. We open it April 21st and we close it at the end of October, so we can heat it. Yeah. And so this past October, I mean, we had that baby up to like 90 some degrees. It was like a ginormous hot tub.
Wow. Yeah.
It was amazing. And we all loved it. And then I got my gas bill and it was pushing 2,000. And I just was like,
oh my gosh.
Smokes. Which we knew it was going to happen. I mean,
but we kept seeing it on paper,
dollar signs going up in the air and the smoke. But I gotta tell you, it was just the best. And we had a really
Oh,
warm October too. So it was
yeah.
in the 70. Oh, it was beautiful.
See,
Yeah. So
out here in Arizona, we have to actually cool our pools during the
yeah.
summer because if you don't, it's hot. It's 120 outside and you're swimming in like 95-degree pool water because it's so hot. So we either ice or you have a cooling system.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Mhm.
so good though. So what are some of the struggles that you encounter when it comes to like practicing your faith and kind of involving that into your business and into your home life, and like how do you make sure you fit it in, and how do you make sure that like it stays like centered on the gospel?
I think, it's in my business. It's in my home as much as I can get it in my home without
Yeah,
being a tyrant.
right.
I would like it more. I think one of the biggest struggles is getting into a pew.
Mm,
Is, I've made it to a couple Catholic masses and I'm having a
yeah,
hard time with the Catholic Church.
yeah,
So yeah, I
I,
really am. It's not
yeah,
the big C, it's the little C that I'm
right,
struggling with.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I
yeah.
appreciate your honesty and vulnerability about that though, because that's not an easy thing to admit to, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm very transparent about it. I mean, I went to the
Yeah.
priest, and I'm like, your mass is so dry.
Yeah.
Number one, the mass is dry. Like, why don't you like spice up some of the music? Maybe you get a younger crowd in here. And then number two is, are we going to see the fall of the Vatican? Like
Mm,
I mean, look at this,
yeah.
the amount of stuff that the archdiocese have covered up over the
Yeah.
years, over the decades, over the centuries. And so I'm like, who's infiltrated the Vatican? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll see it in our time
Yeah.
or what, but I do. I have a real hard time. So that's one of my biggest struggles is just finding a brick and mortar place to worship. I think if I could do that, I think I'm gonna have a bigger sense of community for myself and for
Yeah.
my family and for my son. And that's one of the biggest struggles is finding it because
Yeah.
non-denominational, I think it's pretty, but a Catholic mass is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I think there's definitely as much as this, small c church can be broken because it's run by broken people, right? Like it is broken people trying to put it together. I think that like if you're Catholic or evangelical, I think they each have like their own like beautiful elements to it. And I actually worked in Ireland for a while with a ministry out there that was working to, minister to the kids, kind of like their equivalent of like high school aged kids. And what was really beautiful uh, as this ministry was going forward was that it was ultimately non-denominational in the fact that, or I guess like undenominational.
yes,
So like it didn't associate itself with the Catholic Church or with a Protestant church. It was,
Unitarian.
yeah, very
Yeah.
neutral in that approach, and that allowed them to reach so many more people in their ministry, because they said, like they agreed on the big list of things, the Jesus, the Trinity, there's agreement there, and the rest, can be figured out within your own heart.
Mhm.
But it opened up so many doors to be able to like kind of straddle that line, I guess.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying too with finding community, and I think that like I hear you, and I hear what you're saying is like one is not easy to find community and find those people, um but also like I hear the desire to do that within you when you're talking about it. Have
And
you had kind of a glimpse or like a taste of a really powerful or strong community within the church?
I have never.
Wow.
I know I have
Mm.
never, and I've watched so many Hallmark movies, and I have never, I haven't. And I don't know if that's just, I wasn't, sometimes we are closed off to certain things. I could have
Yeah.
been closed off. I haven't maybe found the right time, that it wasn't the right place.
Yeah.
So I'm exploring out here in my area,
Yeah.
and I've connected with some really great women
Mm-hmm.
throughout some of the churches, because there's a
Yeah.
wonderful Unitarian church right down the street with me. Beautiful female pastor that's reforming prisoners and everything. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so close. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a block that I have.
Mm.
There's some, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's beautiful though, because like, even though, and forgive me if I'm like
Yeah.
mischaracterizing what you're saying, but like, even though you haven't experienced this kind of community, like you still feel a sense of being drawn to the need for community. And I think that's a really interesting, like, a really interesting highlight of the human experience is that we're designed to do it together.
110%. Yes. Yeah.
And I think when we have our faith, depending on what kind of, because to bring it back, we're talking about work and like how our work intersects with our faith. I think that you were saying your social media manager is a Christian, but then there's also those people who are not believers who we encounter every single day. I would say I encounter more unbelievers than I do in my regular life at work.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And you respect it. I respect it. Yeah.
And can you talk more about that experience for you?
Yeah. I had a social media manager. I absolutely love her. She does more stuff on the side, and I don't think there's a relationship with God, because she's kind of made mention on the verbiage that we are switching to. And she said it's going to offend the people that aren't. And I said, well, it's going to attract the people that I want to attract.
Right.
And you have to think, yes, I am very spiritual. I am spiritually gifted. I am, yes. So I can see both sides of the spectrum.
Right.
But I'm going to do it my way, and they're going to do it their way, and there is no right or wrong. But if you are feeling empty, feeling lost, feeling unfulfilled, there's a reason for that. And my relationship with God has completely turned that around.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's so true. And what I see, especially, I mean, it literally happened last week. So it's like really opportune that we're talking about this. But for me last week, I don't know what I was looking at, a video or something on Facebook of a video, and it was talking about Christians, and I made the mistake of going to read the comments. And if you are in a negative place, stay away from the comment section, because it is not a good place that fosters positivity. And I was reading through it, and I was like so heartbroken of like what people write in these comment sections are kind of like the revelation of their true feelings and their true selves. While they might not say that to you in a cubicle, they're saying it online. And I got really disheartened. And then the Asbury, are you familiar with what's happening at Asbury University? So, and that's happening. And I like kind of compared the two, and I was like, we are so hungry for God. Like, but most of our culture does not know what to call it.
Or they suppress it, because what happened to Kanye? I'm sorry.
That too.
I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
We are suppressing it. We are suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it. And it's become such bad juju to speak that I am proud to say that I am a Christian. I believe in God. It is. I mean, there are images of women protesters during the abortion thing, and I don't even want to go there with
Right.
what's right or wrong. I'm just, the signs that they were holding up was just, it was grotesque, and it wasn't coming from a place of love.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think for me, God's intention, if you are following him or following the word, it's out of a place of love.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing that today.
Yeah.
And the comments are scary.
Yeah, it was brutal, and I have learned my lesson. But it also gave me kind of a glimpse into the battle that's even happening like in the spiritual realm for us and for people who are believers and people who are not believers, and that battle that is going there. And I was even in the workplace, I work in a very kind of corporate-y environment, and like there's been many times where I hit my knees and I'm like, God, I don't know how to respond to this in a way that is honoring to you, but also that reflects you in these examples. And I think that's sometimes really difficult.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. What would your coworkers say? How would they react?
Yeah.
I mean,
And being put in situations where you're obligated to reply or to answer in a certain realm, but also you're like, that's not God honoring in my faith. And I think that's something that like people struggle with, and something, you know, your social media manager kind of called out is like, there's going to be people who are turned off by this.
yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're meant to like just change that. And I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
I mean, we see what's going on in the world, and we can hunker down and just pray, or we can be willing to stand up for what we believe in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And so what I kind of wanted to circle around about is, one, I have like so many logistical questions, like my marketing mind is kicking in and is like, when did you make this change on your social media? And what have your metrics and change, like what have your social media metrics looked like since you made this change? And have you seen an improvement in being more upfront about what you believe in?
Social media engagement, yes, I have seen
Yeah.
an improvement. Metrics, I had to fire that person, so I don't know yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Girl, I
But
got you. I
yeah.
got you. Let's
I was
talk
just
after.
gonna say, well, when I found that out, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta talk to her. Because I want more of it.
Yeah.
I want more of it. I do. And I would like to pair up and collaborate with some wonderful women that I see on Instagram, like She Who Worships. There's bands out there that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
My goal, Paige, is to be out there speaking to communities of just groups of midlife women.
Yeah.
Letting everybody know that, what you're going through right now, it's okay. There's no shame to feel about it. We all have a story. We all have a struggle, but we do it together. And that togetherness was brought to you from,
Yeah.
And I would love to pair it with some of the I think it's called She Who Worships or something like that. It's,
Yeah. One of those
Yeah.
accounts.
Yeah.
So going into like what you do a little bit more, like why midlife women? Like what is significant about that sector of women?
Well, I am one. Number one. So at 42, I had my awakening. I had my earth shattering, like, what the hell happened? I was raised like, how? My family is like, what? And I went through some intense, really good therapy, surrounded by some really great therapists and shamans. And I went back to my roots in Mexico to do some healing. Part of my spiritual gifts, I have the ability to see past life stuff with me. So I was able to go back to Mexico and work with shamans, and I work current shamans here. And I think with midlife women, when we do hit that point at 42, we start to open our eyes and realize, like, I'm not everything that made me happy. That it's not. Your eyes are open. You're realizing that, especially in our generation, we were trained to just do it all. And we've heard a lot of women climbing that corporate ladder. So there's a lot of wounded feminine going on right now currently too.
Yeah.
And so we're backing off, and we're finding side hustles, and and a lot of us are just learning to set healthy boundaries, expectations, and just starting to dabble in new adventures. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Talking about the corporate ladder. And I'll add this with the caveat of, I know Jesus can do anything he wants. So if he wants to be in the corporate space, he will be in the corporate space. But in the regular American kind of business corporation, as it currently stands, do you think there's room for Jesus?
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Because the answer is probably no.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Yeah. When you think of, yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. And how does Jesus show up? I'm reaching out to a bunch of people to get, all walks of life on this podcast, of like all different backgrounds. But with the common thread of like, they believe in Jesus. And I'm hoping to get some human resource professionals and some employment lawyers on here, because like, I don't think it's happening so much now, but I can see it happening in the future, of where it's going to be silenced. And that's hard and scary, of, not being able to talk about who you are. It's not even your faith, because when we are in Jesus, we are a new creation and he lives in us. And so not being able to be who you are in Jesus in the workplace is unfortunate.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you need some rebel rousers.
Yes.
I'm like that. Yeah. You're like triggering my rebel in me. And I'm like, I'm blaring that in my little cubicle, and you're going to yank me out. Wow.
Yeah.
I would hope not. I would hope not, especially with where we're shifting, because we are spiritually shifting into a new, that's a whole other conversation, but we are spiritually shifting. The earth is shifting. Things are happening. I think I have faith.
Yeah.
I do. I really do. I have faith. And I'm going to tell you, when it gets bad, the old saying, there are no atheists in a foxhole. Yeah. And sometimes God has to rock our foundation hard before people open their eyes. And we've had many years of just good times. And so he's like, we're going to make it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because in the hard is where you find Jesus. I'm actually working on a book of like how to find Jesus in the easy, because I feel like that's where most people struggle with their faith, or struggle with the intentionality of their faith, is when things are going good.
I got to think about that. That's good. That's nice. It all starts at home, and then we lose it because we just become our own individual self.
Right.
So it really is your own personal journey.
And I'd like to think too, you're seeing kind of this, not uprising, I wouldn't put it there yet, but kind of this merging of Christians, and I guess I would just say like moral Christians, who are stepping up into the place that had a very hard boundary line before, and they're stepping over and kind of crossing that, of like, we don't need just more Christians, we need more Christian business leaders.
Mhm.
Because then through that, they're able to operate their business in an ethical and moral way and allow for their employees to have the freedom to be able to practice their faith.
I've got somebody for you to interview. So my chiropractor, I
Yeah.
go and see a chiropractor, so we won't forget this. I
Okay.
will connect you. And I love walking into that office because the Christian music is playing. You'll hear
Yeah.
some of the employees going, "Oh my God, I can't take it anymore." And we can freely speak about whatever.
Yeah.
Politics, COVID, just it's freedom. But I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's a small business. And maybe that's where we need to put the money in. But I walk
Yeah.
in there and they are not afraid
Mhm.
to talk about it, to listen to it, and I don't see any uncomfortable people besides a couple employees, and I don't even know
Yeah.
if they're still there anymore, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My
but
hairstylist was the same way, where she has since sold her business, which I am like heartbroken about, because I'm like, I have to go find someone else. Like this does not keep itself up. I need someone with professional help. But she was the same way, where anyone was able to talk about everything, and would always have worship music playing on in the background, and like you knew what you got when you went there. But also it's a very successful business, and she sold it, and it's still successful. And so yeah, I think we just need more Christian business owners to be able to we need to raise them up to be able to help just sustain faith in the workplace.
I think so, and not be afraid, because that was me, as I struggled with the fear part of it. Oh my God, I'm gonna put this out. I'm gonna write an article about this. Oh my God, and then it was a deeper epiphany that I had talking to God, that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna serve you this way. You have gotten me this far and have given me these amazing gifts through my trials and tribulations. I can serve you this way by speaking it to women.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really fear-based. And then I was just like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two, I think that when we step into a spirit of boldness, we realize that those who would be offended, they don't really know you.
Mhm.
Because I think like even I fall into this trap a lot of kind of watering down my faith, especially when I'm like at work and everything, of like, I don't want to talk about it as boldly as I know I can. And it's really for fear that I'm going to be pocketed into a certain bucket, and people will see the label and put me in that bucket. When really the truth is, if they know me and they know my heart, I probably don't fit in that bucket.
Yeah.
Most of us don't.
Yeah.
The people in the bucket are the people you see on the news. And that's why you think the people in the bucket go there.
Mhm.
Right? Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
stereotypes that we encounter.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap up this conversation, I always like to ask my guests, what is one thing that our listeners can do to implement a faith building practice or discipline into their life? What can they walk away with today?
One thing that we can do.
Yeah.
Talk to God.
Mm.
Just talk. Just start by talking. That's it. It simply has to just start with talking. And I think from there, it usually just kind of grows. It flourishes if you start talking. We want to live in his excellence.
Yeah. Yeah.
That be groomed into his excellence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so powerful. That's so powerful, because I think people think that when we talk about a relationship with Jesus and a relationship with God, people miss out. Like, what do you do in a relationship? You hang out with them, you spend time with them, you learn about the other person, they learn about you. Of course, God knows everything about you, but there's this give and take in the relationship, and it's not just like, yeah, he knows everything about me. It's like, okay, what do I know about God? And do I talk to him?
Yeah. Yeah. And dive into the scriptures. I mean, you're talking to right now somebody who was a Catholic because she had to be, and just didn't have a relationship with him for a long time. And then finally started to, and dive into the scripture, poke around, do your own homework.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, if you are that uncertain about who he or she is, it's a he in my eyes, just poke around, dive into the scripture. I gotta tell you, there's some great podcasts out there. There's some great apps out there. Jeff Cavins is awesome. He has helped me understand the scriptures. I usually have to listen and then go to YouTube.
Right.
And he's helped define the difference between, living in his excellence. Because
Yeah.
there's no ego, no I in that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Felicity, for joining us.
It was so fun. You're beautiful.
Awesome.
It was great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been awesome. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked what you were listening to, make sure you subscribe and hit those 5 stars.